Well, this episode is certainly not coming out at midnight as the Tigers go into extra innings, but do win in a game that already started at 7:40. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Alrighty, well, the Detroit Tigers do win a ball game in Kansas City at Kauffman. Great place to watch a ball game, by the way. Fantastic. I really like Kauffman. I think it's a great ballpark. I think one of the more underrated parks out there. A lot of great stuff to do around Kauffman as well, right off the highway, easily accessible. A lot of stuff it has going for it. Fantastic barbecue all over the place down there as well. I had an enjoyable experience when I went to Kauffman a couple of years ago. But on Monday night, the Detroit Tigers spoil the home crowd there and win 8-5 in 10 innings. This game, without any shadow of a doubt, took years off my life. Without a doubt. When it's all said and done for me, you can chalk up probably several days, if not weeks, to this baseball game, which is ridiculous because this team's under 500 and it's May. But that's just like, unfortunately, I just care a lot about this baseball team that has not brought me a lot of wins over the last 7 years. And but in this one they did, so that's great. Very much a roller coaster of emotions this baseball game was, from like all over the place. The pitching was a roller coaster of emotions. The bullpen was certainly a roller coaster, especially late. The offense had a lot of good and a lot of bad. Just the definition of roller coaster of emotions, I guess. Maybe that'll be the name of this episode. This was wild for all of the right and wrong reasons. Where do we even? I guess we'll just start with Michael Lorenzen for chronological sake. Michael Lorenzen in this baseball game goes 5 2/3, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 3 home runs against. His ERA goes up to 4.08 on the season. I don't expect him to be too much better than 4.08. I think ideally he's just like a sub 4 ERA starting pitcher. I think that's probably what is like a realistic, like, oh, he's like been good this year kind of expectation. But I don't expect him to be too much better or worse than like a 4 ERA. Which, yeah, I mean, you can be the second best starter on this team with a 3.8 ERA or whatever he's going to settle in at long term. But yeah, this was a game where it was weird because I'm almost kind of like nervous to say this out loud because the final line is not good. But like, I honestly did not think he looked bad. Like, really at all. I thought he made 2 really bad pitches. And he got barreled up a little bit for sure. I think he had, I don't even know, 3 or 4 flyouts to the warning track. The ball was flying in Kauffman. The Tigers had plenty of long flyouts as well. But I didn't think he looked terrible. The first home run he gave up was a horrendous pitch. And the Jackie Bradley Jr. one could have been a lot better. Jackie Bradley Jr. is legitimately, like, there's a legit argument he's the worst hitter in baseball. Like, for real. Like, this is real life. There is an actual real, like, winnable argument that JBJ in the year 2023 is the worst hitter in the majors. He has a 12 WRC plus going into this ball game on Monday. He hits a home run to the opposite field. He hasn't had an opposite field hit since last year, and it's a homer, his first homer since last year. And then he makes two great plays in center. That's not unexpected. JBJ is one of the more underrated defensive center fielders of this entire generation, in my opinion. He's phenomenal. But I mean, golly, can we stop? Can we stop just being that team? Like, can we just stop being the team that, like, oh, this player's absolutely awful. Well, they're gonna go yard tonight. No one's awful that plays in the majors. I'm being very dramatic just for because I'm frustrated. But it's mind boggling to me how we always find ourselves in this situation. We always find ourselves in the situation of, hey, this guy hasn't hit a homer since the Bush administration. Well, he's going yard twice tonight. Like, why is that always us? I guess it's because we haven't won very much in the last 7 years, but it's just very frustrating. Michael Lorenzen, back on track there. Kind of an ADHD moment there. I apologize. But Michael Lorenzen, yeah, I didn't think he looked awful. And throughout the game, like he has a pretty consistent pitch mix when it comes to like righties are going to get his four seamer and his slider, and lefties are going to get his four seamer and his changeup. And that's just, he's going to be a two pitch pitcher and use three pitches to be a two pitch pitcher, if that makes sense. But like the slider got a lot of swings and misses. He got a lot of called strikes on it. It got crushed once. But like outside of that one time it got crushed, it was a really good pitch. The changeup got crushed, I think, twice, maybe three times. Outside of that, when it wasn't getting crushed and it was mixed well, it was also a really effective pitch. And then the four-seam fastball, it kind of just like is what it is. The four-seam fastball is going to be pretty consistent pitch for him. He's going to get some called strikes low in the zone on it because he goes slider and changeup. So he's going to be able to buckle some knees with the fastball low. But if you're sitting on it, you're going to be able to hit it hard. That's always going to be a thing. That's not really surprising that the four-seam got hit hard to me. But the other ones, especially lately, haven't been getting hit very hard. The changeup fell victim to some high exit velocities in this ball game. So yeah, just like a weird start where maybe he didn't look bad is maybe too general. Like it obviously wasn't a fantastic outing, but it was kind of like, I guess, a roller coaster. Like it really just comes back down to that. Like he'd go 2 innings without giving up anything. And then he would throw two just hanging changeups that would get absolutely crushed. One 430 feet, one 410 feet that Riley Green has his back up against the wall at for a fly out. And he'd get out of the inning like relatively fine-ish. Like that's just kind of what this was. Like when his pitches missed, they missed really, really badly. But as a whole, the entire outing, there was still a lot of good there. I didn't think this was like some train wreck where he was consistently bad the entire outing, I guess is more of my point. Makes sense? I hope it did. Okay, let's get into the offense. We certainly have a lot to get into there because there was a lot of good and a lot of bad on the offensive side of the ball for the Tigers. And then bullpen, and then we have a trade to kind of go over. Low-level trade, depth for depth, but I want to keep everybody as informed as I am as best as I can. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. We'll do that right after I tell y'all about our friends over at So Rare. It's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace that's transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience. You can collect, buy, sell, and compete with player cards against global competitions to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to actually play. It's awesome. They're paired with Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez, who you see on commercials and stuff. If you have MLB TV, you see their commercials often. It is growing rapidly because everyone's realizing how awesome it is. It's truly fascinating and very, very unique. It's a great time. So go ahead to sorare.com/lockedon. That's SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineups, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing. today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I greatly appreciate y'all who do that and do tune in every day, the everydayers. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be back, obviously, recapping Game 2 of this 3-game set against the Kansas City Royals in Kansas City. I did want to say, just in terms of the series, this was a close game, and it shouldn't have been. Maybe I just don't think very highly of the Royals at the moment, but like who does? But like genuinely, I felt like we were the better team the entire ball game. And it was very frustrating for me to watch us. Like I felt like control isn't the right word, but I felt like I don't even want to use this word at all. But like we deserved to win. Like the Tigers felt like the better team for 10 innings. I almost said 9. And the fact that it went into extras was very frustrating. I'll be honest. Miraculously, the Tigers are 21-24 and only 2.5 games out of first place in the AL Central because the Twins lost to the Giants on Monday night. They're barely over 500. You probably you need to win 2 of 3. It is an absolute failure if you don't win this series, especially now that you won game 1. There's zero excuse to not win the series. You should probably sweep this baseball team. I know that the Tigers aren't world beaters, and most people still think that they're going to lose around 90 ball games, if not more. I completely understand that, but the Royals are awful. Like the Royals are what, 4 wins better than the A's? They're the only team that's even in the same stratosphere as the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's have like 10 wins, I think, at the time of this recording. 10 or 11 if they won on Monday night, which odds are not good. I haven't looked, but so you know what? They're, I think the worst team in the National League is, I guess I can pull it up right now. I think the worst team in the National League is the Rockies, and I think they have 19 wins. Oh, they won. The worst team in the NL has 20 wins. The Nationals, the Reds, and the Rockies all have 20 wins. The A's have 10. The Royals have 14. And the next worst team in baseball is the White Sox with 19. Like, you are talking about, like, a legitimate, like, bottom of the barrel baseball team. And one of the reasons why is because they have absolutely no pitching. And in this game, the Tigers faced Brady Singer, who his entire career has been a Tigers killer. We talk so often about Tigers killers on the offensive side of the ball, right? And like J Ram for Cleveland, right? He's like an infamous Tiger killer. Or like dating yourself a little bit, like Jim Tomei was always a big Tiger killer. Jose Abreu was, still is, I guess, very much a somebody who's in that category. There's all people like that, all throughout Tigers history. Depending on what era you grew up in, everybody remembers more. It's a very fun conversation to have, to be honest with you. But that is, who was the one? Oh, he was a Royal. Billy Butler. You remember every time we played Billy Butler. That dude, unbelievable. That could be a whole show in itself. Maybe we'll do that next offseason. Just spend 30 minutes talking about Tiger killers. But on the pitching side, Brady Singer was the definition of that. I think he was 6-0 going into this ball game in his career against the Tigers. Like a 2.2 something ERA. They flashed the stats on the broadcast before the game started. And this year, he has been dreadful, which is really unfortunate because I really liked Brady Singer at college. Thought he was the best pitcher in the country when he was there. And he has been really solid and a really a lot of promise. That's the word that has a lot of people, myself included, thought he had as he was kind of growing at the major league level. And this year, he has just, I haven't been on my fantasy team too, full disclosure. It has been a struggle for Brady Singer. He's got like a 7.5 ERA on the season. I think he has given up like 5+ earned runs in a lot of starts this season. He's just no command, no feel. The slider is not biting nearly as much as it used to. People are all over it. It's really unfortunate. And for his own sake, I really hope that he does figure it out because It would be really sad to see like someone that had all the potential that he had coming out of college and in his early career at the major league level even just kind of turn into whatever is happening this year. So hopefully he figures it out. But the Tigers took advantage of that today and had, again, a boatload of walks for like the second game in a row, right? We the finale against the Nationals, they had more walks than anyone and just couldn't hit them home. Well, that happened again. And while the Tigers did end this game with 8 runs, you would not think it based on the numbers with runners in scoring position. They went 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position, and 2 of those hits were in the top of the 10th inning when you scored 3 runs. Crazy how that works, right? It's crazy how clutch hitting directly leads to runs. That's mind-boggling stuff. But they were through 9 innings, 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, and had, I think, 11 base runners left on as a team. Just continues to be a conversation with this baseball team. Zero ability to drive runners in. It is absolutely infuriating. It makes me so upset. I'm so angry watching this offense a majority of the time. And the reason is because like last year was just embarrassing and pathetic for historic reasons, right? That was just a completely inept offense that couldn't do anything ever. They couldn't even get runners on base, nonetheless hit them home. This team is getting runners on base. They've been walking at an unreal clip over the last week, right? An unreal clip. Spencer Torkelson had 4 walks tonight. Akil Baddoo has walked in like every game over the last 6 or 7 games or something like that. And has several of those games has had multiple walks. Like Zach McKinstry's a walk machine. Like they are getting a ton of runners on base. They had 10 walks in this baseball game. 10. 9 in 9 innings. And just refused to hit them home. Matt Vierling looked good today. We'll get into individual performances in a second. But like, if it wasn't for his home run and just saying, you know what, no one can have timely hitting, so Matt Vierling's just going to go over the fence here to get some guaranteed runs on the board. If it wasn't for that, the Tigers don't make it to extras and lose this game despite having 11 hits and 10 walks. They had 21 base runners and went 1 for 10 through 9 innings with runners in scoring position. The definition of unacceptable. So that continues to plague this team. I'm not asking to be like the Texas Rangers are hitting like 330 or something like unsustainably ridiculous with runners in scoring position. Like there's no way that's gonna hold throughout 162. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking to not bat 200 with runners in scoring position over the course of the season like they have. The only team worse than you is the Padres, who that's a whole, we could spend a half an hour talking about their struggles this season. But like, I'm asking for like 1 or 2 more timely hits a game and like the same amount of base runners. Not asking to go 5 for 5 with RISP. I'm not asking to go 3 for 5. You can still strand 15 a night for all I care, but get like 3 or 4 hits in 15 or 16 attempts. Like just a little bit more, 1 or 2 more timely hits a game, and this team would legitimately be like 500 at the moment. But they just can't. And it's infuriating. Okay, we did win though. Vibes are high. We did win. We're going to talk about the good. We had a lot of really solid individual performances in this baseball game that I want to go over. And then we'll talk a little bit about the bullpen and the managerial side at the end as well. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at Oh, I'm going to find it. Dang it. Game Time. First time's a charm. At Game Time, you can rather forget about planning months in advance. They have deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They have everything you could possibly want to attend. And they also give you the Game Time guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price. Even if you find tickets in the same section and row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets you want without the stress at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back. Third and final segment here, Locked On Tigers. So let's talk about some individual performances here. Riley Green had a good day, 2 for 5 with a walk. Zach McKinstry, good again, a hit and a walk. His OPS is now just under 790. Yeah, the top of the lineup did well in this one. We'll get to Baez in a second. Spencer Torkelson goes 0 for 2 with 4 walks. That's pretty wild. 4 walks. I think they said on the broadcast it was the first time a Tiger had walked 4 times in a game since JD Martinez did in like 2018 or 17. Pretty crazy stuff there. I think Torkelson's seeing the ball really well lately. I also think that it's all about pitch selection for him, and that's something that he's been working on a lot. And I think that he has been choosing to swing at much better pitches really over the course of this entire season. The next step is actually taking advantage of picking correctly, right? You can have good pitch selection all you want. We talk all the time about Nick Maton works a ton of counts. If you can't actually hit the ball when it is the right pitch to swing at, then it's all for naught. It doesn't matter. So that's the next step in development for him. But I do think that his pitch selection at the plate has been really solid. There's a lot of numbers that back that up too, just as far as, like choosing pitches that theoretically and non-theoretically, just in practice, you can do a lot more damage with. So that's been a good sign from him lately. But still, obviously, we want to see him continue to get better. He's been better in May than he was in April as well. Riley Green, good to see him get a couple of hits and a walk, just given the fact that he was on fire all of May. And then in the National Series happened, and the last 2 games of it, he really looks like a completely different hitter and was not very effective at all. So good to see him get back on the horse in that one. I do want to talk about Nick Maton goes 0 for again. I want to talk about Andy Ibanez. Andy Ibanez has a 191 average and a 534 OPS on the season. That is including when we had a conversation like a week into May when he had 1,000 OPS in the month of May. It was like the first, 7 or 8 days in the month. So that hot streak has come and gone. Now, we talked about this a lot. Like, if you listen to the show every day, you're very aware that this was maybe not to this depth, but this was bound to happen because Andy Ibanez, while he makes contact with a lot of stuff and doesn't strike out a boatload, he is a free swinger, and people that have that approach at the plate tend to have really hot streaks and really cold streaks. We've seen it with Scope over the years, like before the last year when he's just been awful all around. I mean, even when Scope was still like a league average hitter back a couple of years ago, that was kind of, he had a 1 month with a 300 OPS and 1 month with a 1,000 OPS, and that's just kind of how it goes. So I would say that Kerry Carpenter, it sounds like, maybe a rehab start soon. I don't have an exact date or anything to give you, but seems to me that he will probably, signs are pointing to him starting a rehab assignment relatively soon. And I would imagine that once he is healthy, it's going to be Carpenter returning at the expense of either Scope or Ibanez would be my best guess. And as far as the Malloy people, I love Justin Henry Malloy. He's one of my favorite prospects just because of how much he walks. He has great discipline. but his May numbers are not as incredible as the April numbers were. So they're not bad or anything, but so I don't know if that's gonna be like, I don't know. Patience might have to be a thing there. It's a virtue. But you might not get that like right at Memorial Day. You know what I mean? Like that. We'll see what happens. You'll see him a lot this season. I'm not trying to say that you're just not going to see him at the major league level at all. But it might not be like, I don't know, in the next week. Like it might not be in the month of May. We'll see. We'll see. But I think the bigger thing is looking for when Kerry Carpenter comes back and seeing if it's going to be for Ibanez or Scope, or I guess maybe Zach Short's thrown in there as well. Matt Vierling had a phenomenal game in this one. He goes 3 for 4 with a walk and a home run. He had 4 RBIs in this baseball game as well. So, yeah, certainly was carrying a heavy load there as far as offense goes. His OPS on the season is now back up to 687, which is great because like a week and a half ago was below 600. So, yeah, he got off to a decent start, then kind of slowed down, then got hot again, and then really cooled off and was really bad for the entire first month of May, was like an automatic out. And now, over the last 5 or 6 games, has been on a massive heater again. So good to see him kind of get back on the horse, looking for a little more consistency out of everybody, right? That's like the sign of a really good, like solid Major League Baseball player, you know? There's a lot of dudes that can come up and run into a homer. A lot. High single A, double A, triple A. There's a lot of dudes that have the ability to run into a home run at the major league level. There's a lot of dudes that have the ability to be hot for a week, be hot for 2 weeks. The true testament to a really solid, above average Major League Baseball player is someone who can consistently put together good at bats and good production over the course of 162 games. And that is why I love and will never advocate for baseball to cut back the amount of games in that it has. That was horrible English. Because no other sport puts you up against that type of just marathon. You have to have your head in the game and be focused for an entire summer. If you play for the Tigers, you're going from when it's snowing to when it's snowing, right? So I that is the big testament to becoming like a solid, right? Like wins above replacement WAR. Like if you want to be a solid, solidified, above league average, above replacement level player, you need to have some consistency to you. And that is what this team desperately lacks at the moment. It's just a consistent bat. There's a lot of dudes that have gone on hot streaks. We've seen Torque, hot, cold, hot, cold. We've seen Riley Green, hot, cold, hot, cold. Javy Baez is the definition of hot, cold, hot, cold. Nick Maton, a lot of cold, a little bit of hot, a lot of cold, though. Andy Ibanez, hot, cold. Matt Vierling, we just talked about. Eric Haas, cold, hot, freezing cold the last couple of weeks. This team desperately needs consistency from anyone. Literally anyone in the lineup. Give me one person in this lineup who is relatively consistent throughout the course of the year. And I would consider that a massive win, and I think it would help this offense a ton. Not that one player is going to single-handedly make this team like an 80 or 85 or 90 win team or anything. But just having someone you can consistently rely on is something that this team desperately needs. And we're hoping that a few guys turn into that throughout the course of the season. Yeah, bullpen, that's pretty much it for the offense. A lot of walks, great approach. Great approach. I cannot express enough how much I'm liking the fact that they're walking a ton. But walking, while it's like my favorite thing on earth, it is all for naught if you can't pair it with timely hitting or power. This team has neither. And that's why you see ridiculous totals at the end of games with 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position, 2 for 13. What, right? Because they consistently get men on and then can't do anything with it. They had bases loaded like 3 times today. Took advantage of it once. Same with the Nationals game. So, again, Desperately need that to turn a corner. Bullpen, Will Vest, solid. Chasen Shreve, faced one batter, solid. Alex Lang, 0.89 ERA. I didn't even think this was like, especially in the second inning of work, I didn't think that this was like peak Alex Lang. He kind of had some command issues, was all over the place, but his stuff is so good. He doesn't even need to be pinpoint. I've said that a million times this season, dating back to last year even. But he just needs to be in the same zip code as the strike zone, and he's pretty much unhittable. And that was put on full display tonight. He's unbelievable. He truly is unbelievable. And again, 4.5 years of control left, I believe, for Alex Lang. Tigers got a very valuable asset there. And then Jose Cisnero, while it was not pretty whatsoever, his ERA is now down to 2.5, and he's only allowed one earned run since April 22nd. That's like a month. Today's April 23rd. So in the last literal calendar month, he has allowed one earned run. So awful start to the season. Objectively, no one's going to deny that. And tonight, again, or Monday night rather, was not pretty. That was not he could not find the zone, a lot of it. But has been getting the job done lately. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for Javy. I did want to talk about Javy. Yeah, so he goes 3 for 6, but 2 of the hits shouldn't have even been hits. One was like a barely bloop single over the first baseman's head. And the other one was a swinging bunt that Brady Singer couldn't make a play on. So like not like really good at bats or anything. He had a horrible at bat later in the game when they had runners on and really needed Javy Baez to like score. It might have even been one of the bases loaded times, but there's definitely at least one runner in scoring position, and first pitch swing pop out to first base. Then in extras, he comes to the plate and it's his hardest hit ball of the year. He smokes it. It sounded like a cannon went off in Kauffman. Absolute rocket to left field, 114 miles an hour off the bat, scores all 3, tries to stretch a double into a triple, gets thrown out at third, tries to do his swim move thing, doesn't work. But it's just, he's so frustrating because he can be so good and he still does have value to this team. Whether you want to hear it or whether you're just scoffing or not, it's true. Like, he does add value to this baseball team because, again, there's a lot of dudes that are just not solidified Major League Baseball players. And whether you like it or not, Javy Baez is that. And he hasn't been a train wreck in the field this year. He's actually been one of the best defenders in all of baseball this season. It's just so frustrating because he'll just go a week where you're like, what on earth is happening? And then he'll do that. And he'll go and be up in a big moment and take advantage. He has a flair for the dramatic. I really wanted him to face Amir Garrett. Amir Garrett really wanted him to face Javy Baez. But I'm not sure we're ever going to get that, to be honest with you. I think the managers just don't want to deal with it. But yeah, just Javy giveth and Javy taketh away. That truly is the best way I can describe it. Came up clutch. And he's done that a lot, but he's also done the opposite a lot. So just forever frustrating. It's just going to be a never-ending cycle with him. Okay, that is pretty much it. Do you want to talk about this trade just a little bit here? It's nothing crazy. I'm not going to take up too much of your time with it, but there was a minor leaguer for minor leaguer trade that happened. The Tigers acquire outfielder Brady Allen from Miami in exchange for outfielder Jonathan Davis. So Allen has pretty solid walk numbers. He's 23 years old and in high single A. So this isn't like some earth-shattering thing. He's not going to be in the majors anytime soon. But he's got a good arm in the outfield, has decent walk numbers, has like a mid 760-ish OPS in high single A again. Has been pro. I think he was in the 2021 draft. So, yeah, and Jonathan Davis has been hitting the ball really well in Toledo. So from Miami's perspective, they want to shore up their major league depth. So they're going to get rid of a 23-year-old in high single A and get a guy who, while Jonathan Davis is a veteran at this point and has never been that good of a hitter at the major league level, he's at least hitting well in AAA this year. In Miami, can then add to their outfield depth a little bit. And if they do need to go into the well of the minor leagues for outfielder depth, they have somebody who has been hitting well at the minor league level and that they hope can maybe translate over and have a hot stretch or whatever at the major league level. Whereas the Tigers have really no use for a 30-year-old career minor leaguer that's hitting well in Toledo. So they are getting rid of him and bringing in a guy who they hope they can work through the system and maybe be in AAA by the end of the season or be in AAA by next season at 24 years old and get younger. So, like, it's not an earth shattering thing, but I did want to bring it up and just say in general, Davis is 31 actually, but in general, I am pro making your depth like younger. Like if you can, for where the Tigers are at, obviously you just want to be better, period. It shouldn't matter really how old they are, but for where the Tigers are at, I think that made sense. Okay. Went way too long with this episode talking about adding this trade talk at the end here, but I just want to be, again, I want to keep y'all in the loop as I am. Does that make sense? Okay. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We'll be back tomorrow. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. I appreciate y'all greatly. Tomorrow we'll be recapping game 2 of this series against the Royals. Again, you should probably you probably should sweep this baseball team. They're not good. Tomorrow on the bump is Eduardo Rodriguez Day as well. So even more of a reason to just go out there and win. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.